the King of my heart be the mountain where I run, the fountain I drink from. Oh, He's my song. Let the King of my heart be the shadow where I hide, the ransom for my life. Oh, He's my song. You are good, good. Oh, 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 let the King of my heart be the wind inside my sails, the anchor in the waves. Oh, He's my song. Let the King of my heart be the fire inside my veins, the echo of my days. Oh, He's my song. 'Cause you are good, good. Oh, you are good, good. Oh, you are good, good. Oh, you are good, good. You're never gonna let me down. 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 'Cause you are good, good. Oh, you are good, good. Oh, you are good, good. Oh, you are good, good.
You're never gonna let me down.
You're never gonna let me down. You're never gonna let me down. You're never gonna let me down. You're never gonna let me down. You're never gonna let me down. You're never gonna let me down. You're never gonna let me down. You're never gonna let me down. You're never gonna let me down. You're never gonna let me down. You are good, good. Oh, you are good, good. Oh, you are good, good. Oh, you are good, good.
Just voices, you are good.
You are good, good. Oh, you are good, good. Oh, you are good, good. Oh, you are good, good. Oh.
Hey everybody, just a very quick update, kind of a news session quickly. We are continuing to sponsor fantastic families in Pakistan. Another 16 families were fed as Christmas comes and it's winter there. If you want to be a part of doing something special for the families in Pakistan, please let Carrie or I know and we will arrange to bless them in a special way over Christmas. Also, as we are coming to Christmas next week, and we were having a carol service at 4 p.m. Now, with COVID and the Omicron variant and all the kind of unsureness, I guess, around that, rather than do that, which is going to be difficult for people to attend given their, the general public unsureness about the situation, we're going to include carols in our 10:30 service next Sunday. So we plan to be live in Wendover with carols, also with an ordination, and also with preaching, which I will be doing on the power of God's love at Christmas. It's going to be simple, straightforward, and it's a great chance to bring to people to that service. So I expect it to be about an hour and a quarter of church, pretty fun-packed, filled service next Sunday at 10:30. And then for those that do want to bless the community with carols, Lucille is going to be working with Larry Gentis, who's down with us from Scotland, and I'm sure Nalady will help and whoever else can. We're going to send as many people as want to go. I think Maisel's keen, others, to sing carols in the public place in Staines. It'll be after the service on Sunday. So I would think we'd get going by 1 or 2. They'll probably have a light lunch together, get their guitars all tuned, and bless the community with some carols. Now that's important. If you want to be part of that, could you let Nalady or Lucille know so that they can coordinate that, and we know that our singing and all that is going to be good for the public. All right, I can't wait to see you soon. Carrie and I are sending our love to you today and praying for you, which we do, and we can't wait to be back with you next week. God bless. Bye now.
Bring it all to peace. The storm surrounding me, let it break. At your name, still. Call the sea to still. The rage in me to still every wave. At your name, Jesus, Jesus. You make the darkness tremble, Jesus, Jesus. You silence fear, Jesus, Jesus. You make the darkness tremble, Jesus, Jesus. Breathe, call these bones to live. Call these lungs to sing once again. I will praise Jesus, Jesus. You make the darkness tremble, Jesus, Jesus. You silence fear, Jesus, Jesus. You make the darkness tremble, Jesus, Jesus. Oh, Jesus. Oh, Jesus. You silence fear. Jesus, Jesus. You make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus.
Jesus.
Jesus, Jesus. You make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus. You silence fear. Jesus, Jesus. You make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus.
Let's sing your name.
Your name is the light that the shadows can't deny. Your name will not be overcome. Your name is the light forever lifted high. Your name will not be overcome.
Last time, let's sing Jesus.
Jesus, Jesus. You make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus. You silence fear. Jesus, Jesus. You make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus. Jesus, Jesus. You make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus. You silence fear. Jesus, Jesus. You make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus.
Well, what an absolute joy and thrill for me to be with you today and to bring a message. And I want to do that encouraging your hope. I want to expose how cruel and terrible hopelessness is and how vital hope is. And I thank you for joining me today on this service on YouTube. We're so glad you're with us. And we send our love and our greetings to you all over the world in the different places that you are today. Let's start with this very simple thought, which is in 1 Corinthians 13:13. Do you remember that? It says that there's three things that remain, things that are going to continue to be important past the end of this world. And the three things that remain are faith, hope, and love. Faith, pistis, hope, elpis, and love, agape. That verse says that love is the greatest, and that's a strong part of the message God's given me in this hour, and we will continue to talk about that in the months and years that are ahead. But I want to talk today about the one that's maybe the least understood and maybe the most overlooked, hope. Because one of the big three in our lives is hope. To develop hope. Hope is something that remains. Now, how do we define hope? Hope is actually defined as a positive expectation of future good. Good things are coming. That's what a person with hope says. I look into the future and it looks good. I'm thinking about my physical condition and COVID and the situations that we're facing, and I'm feeling positive. We find a way through that. I'm looking at the finances, which could be better than they are. Or I'm looking at the dream that God has given me. Or I'm looking at my family and seeing people that are pulled out of what I feel like is God's best for them. Or I'm looking at my nation and feeling this problem or that problem. But hope just sees everything positive. It's a choice, it's an attitude, and it's a spirit as well. There's a spirit of hope. And once you catch that spirit of hope and you begin to build hope in you, life changes. I mentioned the other day on a little video clip I did that if we devoted ourselves to those three things, hope and love and faith, our lives would be transformed. And I want to help you transform your life in this short time I've got with you as we talk about hope today. Hope is a positive expectation of future good. Hope is, in a very broad sense, positivity. It's just all going to work. It's the complete opposite, if you think about it, of hopelessness. Hopelessness is a killer. Hopelessness is pervasive in our society. People suffer with dreadful negativity, and sometimes Christians are the chief amongst these. Being hopeless is, for those that like to use that term, sinful. Being negative about the future is not how God thinks about the future or about your future. You're putting yourself in disagreement with God when you decide that the future isn't looking all that positive, because God is extremely positive about your future. Nothing is going to shock him. Nothing is going to knock him off his throne. Nothing is going to stop him loving you. There's not one thing that can stand in the way of his almighty love and power. And when we embrace that truth, we start to see things extremely positively. And that's what we need. Hopelessness, I mean, you can think of all kinds of examples. There's plenty of preachers of hopelessness around. And if I hear hopelessness, I switch it off. You know, I've learned from a couple of people. I learned from Elijah in the Old Testament. You know his story. He suffered from that hopeless spirit. Call it whatever personality you want. He yielded to hopelessness. He's just had one of the great victories in the history of God and people on earth. 450 prophets of Baal cutting themselves, giving great honor to their God, were unable to bring an answer. And he brought death effectively, which isn't very nice, but he wrought a great victory over 450 false prophets, and then not long after that ran away, hiding because of a godless woman in a rulership position who had threatened to kill him. She wasn't going to kill him since God was with him, and God had just enabled him to kill 450 people that were resist. And there are other stories like that, you know, but standing against God. But he suffered from hopelessness. Oh no, she's going to get me. Oh no, I'm going to run away. And then in his kind of conversation with God, this is what hopelessness is like. Oh, there's nobody else left. It's only me that is faithful to you. And here I am under the cosh, under the hammer, just about to get taken out. And God says, well, actually, buddy, I've reserved 7,000 others. They're worshiping me in truth. They love me. They've prioritized me. Hopeless starts to isolate itself and feel like everything's against me. Hopelessness is a bad deal. It's what the Bible would call evil. And it is something that you can and should eradicate from your life. Train yourself, if I can say it that way. And I'm working with you today to build hope into your life. The future is positive. God is with you. Stop believing that the future is negative. Stop siding with the world or the devil and deciding that whatever you face is ultimately too big for God to handle. There's nothing that is too big for God. And a lot of us, now listen to me here, a lot of us embrace that idea mentally. And so mentally we say that. But in our heart and in our emotions sometimes, we become overwhelmed with hopelessness. If we're really honest, if we're really faced, so we've trained ourselves sometimes to talk faith, you know, and to say, oh yes, I'm believing this and that. But deep down, oftentimes people are afraid. They feel very hopeless. That's what I'm trying to work with right now for you. Because here's an example. What if there's no food on the table this week? which for some of the people we're reaching out to via this message here on YouTube, some of our friends in Pakistan and other places, is a real issue. You can approach that with fear and trepidation and start to feel like, well, we're all going to die. That's understandable. It's human. It's natural. It's hopeless, but it's not godly. And it's not hope, and there's no need for it. God can move heaven and earth to get to you if you will keep your hope strong in his goodness. Did you get that? It's the same in the West. Our problems might be more like health related. So if you're a man and you notice blood, either when if you're at the toilet or whatever, medical things that would indicate there could be something seriously wrong, or you're a woman and you notice a lump in your breast, positivity, hope is like, well, that's probably not going to be a problem. That doesn't mean you ignore going to the doctors or you ignore good advice. That just means my perspective is it's probably going to be fine. And yet, I'm telling you now, a lot of Christians and a lot of people, their automatic default will be the minority situation. Most people, it's not cancer. But they start, well, what if it is? And they don't. Sometimes people don't even want to go to the doctor in case they find out that it is. That's a wrangled emotional mess that comes out of hopelessness. And the Bible calls God the God of hope. That's what he is. It's Romans 15:13. He is the God of hope. Or you could say the God of positivity and positive expectation for everything in the future. That verse says, actually, may the God of hope fill you with all peace and joy in believing or in trusting in him, so that you could overflow with hope by the power of the Holy Spirit. What does the Holy Spirit want you to do? What does God want you to do? To overflow with hope. Overflowingly positive. Ridiculous, not taking sensible precautions, just expecting everything is going to work really well for me. That's what hope is. Satan is a dealer in hopelessness, and if he can discourage you, he will. And I remember a vision that a long time ago was shared by, 50 years ago that I remember, was shared by Oral Roberts, who had a vision and had seen Satan with these tools in front of him that Satan had used them to try and hinder the people of God. And according to Oral Roberts' recollection, the biggest of all those instruments on that table was discouragement. If he can discourage people and you start to feel like it's not worth it, it's too hard, the people don't like me, I can't seem to do it, I'm getting older and we haven't got there yet, we haven't had a child yet, we haven't got pregnant yet, the career job hasn't opened yet, the money isn't what we expected it to be yet, the ministry isn't what I was hoping for yet, the relationships, the friendships, people have let me down, that hasn't worked. All those things, you see, that's all negativity. That's all not necessary. That's all, strictly speaking, evil. God's a God of hope. Start to build hope in your life. Decide to be positive. Abraham, now he's referred to as the father of faith, right? But actually, this beautiful verse, and I'm quoting it here in Romans 4:18, it says that against all hope, Abraham in hope believed, and so he became the father of many nations. A lot of people will say, well, hang on a minute. Abraham was like the hope, the faith guy. He's the father of our faith. What's this about hope? Well, listen, hope and faith are two of the big three, right? And hope and faith are very close together. So if you read Hebrews 11:1, you're going to find it says this. Now, faith is the substance or it's hypostasis is the Greek word. It's that which lies underneath. It's the foundation, the substance, the assurance of the thing you hope for. Faith is the assurance, the confidence, the ground, the absolute stability, sureness of the thing that you hope for. So what comes first? Faith is the substance of the thing that you hope for. Hope comes first. Hope is, as one preacher once said, the blueprint for faith. Faith gives substance to things that you are positively expecting. Stay with me here for a minute. We're not taking a whole lot of time in this session, so I'm just going to focus really strongly on this and try and help you the best that I can with this truth. Listen to me really carefully. Faith is the substance of the thing you hope for. Hope is positively expecting the future to be good. If you don't have much hope, there's no chance of you having much faith, because hope comes before faith. Faith is the blueprint. Hope is the substance built on the blueprint. If the blueprint is extremely small, unclear, negligible, then faith has nothing to build on. So if we can understand it this way, to put it in very raw terms, if you're a person given to negativity, if you find yourself feeling like this is going to go wrong, if you're often discouraged, and all of us face it to some degree, you need to know that that makes it impossible for you to have faith. Oh, I wish I could get that out to some of the friends that I know. Because they talk faith. Oh, I'm believing this, but actually they're not positive. In their heart, that you can tell by the words they say, the confession they make, the way they act, the look in their eyes, that they are really quite fearful and hopeless about the future, but they've been trained somehow to say, well, I'm believing God. No, really, you're not believing God. Really, you're a bit hopeless and you just would love to be more positive, and you're not enjoying this situation, and I get it because I've been there. That's why I'm able to speak about it. You have to develop a positive expectation. You have to become someone that sees everything as working for you in order for faith to grow. And that's what happened with Abraham. His faith was built on his hope. He, against hope, against a positive expectation, doesn't look like it's going to work. But against that, there's the stats, there's the numbers, there's the facts, there's the emails, there's the whatever, there's the financial statements that say this, there's my emotions yelling at me about this. It all says no, not going to happen. Too hard, too sick, too tired, too poor, too whatever. But God. Isn't God with you? And what hope does, or what Abraham did, was believed in being positive in spite of a negative circumstance. This is not a small thing. This is not just positive mental attitude kind of training. This is biblical hope. This is one of the big three, which is why I'm giving this morning's message to this truth. We've got to develop positivity in our hearts towards everything that the future holds. God promised certain things, and we should be greatly encouraged. There's this other verse, actually, I want to read for you. Now, where is that? In Hebrews 15 and, Hebrews 6, I'm sorry. Hebrews 6, I've got it here in front of me, so I didn't have to shuffle around. Hebrews 6, 18 and 19. Listen to this. Listen. God speaking. By two unchangeable things. He made a promise, and then he vowed. He said something, and then he vowed on it. Talking about our salvation. It says, we who have fled from all the negativity and all whatever the world is throwing at us to the hope that is set before us may be greatly encouraged. We have this hope as an anchor for our soul, sure and secure, firm and secure. Hope, positivity, is an anchor for your soul. Your soul involves your emotions. your will, your mind, your soul, and your spirit are close, but your emotions you will find sometimes. You'll find that God is never negative about anything. I said God's never negative about anything. It doesn't mean that he isn't wise. It doesn't mean that we don't plan wisely. It just means we're very positive about everything. There's nothing negative about God. He doesn't think you're not going to make it. He doesn't think you're going to fail. He doesn't think he's ever going to stop loving you, because he isn't. He always sees things working out well for you. You've just got to start to see things the way God sees things. Abraham hoped against hope, and in this case, as we hear from Hebrews, hope is an anchor for the soul. When you hear bad news, could be COVID related or anything else in our world at the moment, hopelessness, and you've got to be careful what you feed yourself, If you're listening to the news too much, the radio too much, it's just going to promote hopelessness. They're just preachers of hopelessness. You need to be listening to preachers of hope. And somebody like me coming on, pushing pretty strongly, let's be filled with hope. If you haven't been that way, and if we're honest, I think most Christians to some degree or other suffer from negativity. And if you haven't been that way, to hear me speak like this can be quite challenging. But it's also the light shining on the darkness and pulling you out of that mire of negativity and presenting a case for you to become an extremely positive person. It's an anchor for your soul. When you feel like you shift like this, oh, one day I'm up. Oh, the next day I'm down. Oh, one day I feel like it's all going to happen. Oh, next day, this is just hopeless. This is never going to happen. And we're shifting and we're going from one to the other. There's no anchor for your soul. What is the anchor for your soul? Hope, positivity. And I would put that into practice with every area of life, even as we approach, COVID and Omicron now and everything else. I just remain extremely positive. That doesn't mean I don't take precautions. I've had COVID. It was very unpleasant. I've taken vaccines to kind of boost up what already is the strongest kind of natural immunity. I take precautions wisely, but my approach would be, I don't expect to get COVID. I'm not being ignorant of the fact it's possible, but I just don't expect it. Understand what I'm saying? It's an attitude. And should I get it, I expect I won't get a very bad case. And should I get a bad case of it, I expect I won't die. And should I die, quite frankly, I know where I'm going, but I'm not going to die. And should I get a bad case of it, I'm going to find a way where that's going to work for me, God and I. I'm going to make more time to listen to the Bible, or I'm going to take the time, if I'm recovering, to write some cards and pray for some people that maybe I don't have the time for, and tell people that I love them. I'm going to find a way. And it's the same with everything, with this situation. I don't expect to get, doesn't mean I'm not going to wear a mask. It just means that I am not expecting to have any problems with this. It's an attitude, a positive attitude towards the future. And it's powerful. I want to encourage you today with one final verse as we move on. It's in Jeremiah 29:11, and it says, "For I know the plans that I have for you." God has plans for you. God in heaven has plans for you. One version says, "I know the thoughts that I have for you." Thoughts or plans to give you a future and a hope, a positive expectation, not to harm you, but to prosper you. God has plans for you. If you would fill your mind with the words of God for you, the plans of God for you. I'm talking about what I'm preaching. I'm talking about what the scripture is saying. I'm talking about selecting to hear the positive gospel in your life. What you focus on, ladies and gentlemen, friends, what you focus on is what you'll become. You can choose to focus on negative things. You can always find people and situations that are going to tell you what's going wrong. And if you're not careful, and if you've done that a lot, that'll be the default for you. That keeps you out of faith. that keeps you out of receiving much of God, from God, that keeps you struggling. But instead, be committed to being full of hope. Let me pray for you. Father God, I want to say thank you for the unbelievably good message that the gospel is. It's so good that it affronts us. It affronts me at times. It's challenging because it's so positive. And I want to ask that spirit of hope to flood into the lives of every person that's hearing today. Not just that they say, well, that was a good message or that was uplifting or whatever. But Father, that in their circumstances, which could be shortage of health, shortage of food, shortage of confidence about the future, shortage of a sense of achievement in this life, whatever it is, we come against a spirit of discouragement that tries to steal and kill the best from God's people. And I ask for, and I pray and release into the lives of all those that are hearing a spirit of faith, spirit of hope, that as they go forward, every day they start to say, wow, why am I seeing that negatively? I could see it positively. And hope starts to fill their life. I promise you, God is a God of hope. I promise that he wants you overflowing with hope. And as you commit yourself to that route, I promise you, your life will get more wonderful. Thanks for being with us. God bless you.